Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This one's from user ThrowArrayCheating12. My 25 male, now ex-girlfriend 22 female, cheated on me with my now former best friend 24 male. This has been a pretty crappy week. This guy has been like a brother to me since freshman year in college. He was dating this girl, 23 female, as well. She is the one who found out and told me. We've hung out a fair bit as couples, and honestly, I never noticed anything besides the usual banter. It's the worst betrayal I can imagine, and since I found out, I feel like I've been walking underwater. His girlfriend discovered it when she saw he was getting multiple Snapchats from my girlfriend while he was asleep, well after midnight. She checked, and let's just say the evidence was compromising and didn't leave anything to the imagination. She screenshotted it, sent it to herself, and then me. I spoke to her briefly on the phone, as long as we could both keep it together, just to make sure this was beyond all doubt. After that, I sent the screenshot to my girlfriend as well as my friend, told them it was over, and then blocked both their numbers. Neither has made the effort to reach out, which suggests to me it was likely they weren't just screwing and probably intended to break up with us eventually and get together. A masochistic part of me wants to know details, but I think it's best I don't. I imagine his girlfriend also handled things on her end. We're living under some pretty tough health restrictions, so there's not a lot I can do to take my mind off things right now. I just work and spend time in my own thoughts. I am probably lucky that I didn't live with my girlfriend yet. It was something I was thinking of bringing up with her, ironically. I've told one other friend about this over the phone, but that's it. Haven't told my parents yet. They loved my friend like a son, and it's not a conversation I want to have because I'd basically be admitting I'm an idiot who can't tell when two of the closest people to him are effing him over. His ex sent me a text the other day and asked if I could come over and talk. I'm in two minds about this. On the one hand, I'm mourning losing him over losing her by a lot. I was in this relationship for a year and I've known him for 8 years. He was going to be the best man at my wedding and my kid's godfather. Seeing his ex is just going to be a reminder of what he did to me. Also, I'm not sure if she wants to meet because she wants to hook up with me or not. I admit that would probably feel good, though might not be healthy in the long run. Probably not thinking that far ahead though. On the other hand, if there's one person I feel I can bring myself to let my guard down with, it's probably her because she is likely feeling the same thing. I want someone to express my grief to without feeling pathetic. What should I do? What are the pros and cons of going over to see this girl? First thing, OP, is I am so sorry that you're going through this. Having your best friend betray you like that is a horrible thing, I am sure of it. Now, to your situation, from what I understand, people grieve in different ways. If talking to this girl will benefit the way you process the situation and how you're feeling and all that, then I'd say go for it. Now, regarding sleeping with her, I'm not so sure I'd take it there. Right now, the both of you are going through a very emotional situation that's pretty effed up, and adding intimacy to that equation might not be the best solution. Like you said, it might not be the healthiest thing to do. Considering the health crisis and all the restrictions, maybe instead of going to her place, you want to have a Zoom call with her and talk about your feelings there. Now, that's what I'd probably do. So how about we check with the community comments to see what kind of advice OP got. CYJMK18 says, I don't necessarily think that going to see her would be that bad of an idea. It doesn't have to be for a hookup. I think you need someone to share in your grief right now. This could be good for you. Secret Tunnels says, going over to see her wouldn't be a bad idea. As hard as it was, she really had your back when it came to letting you know what was going on. Maybe she needs you to have her back right now too. Extremeric11 says, hooking up with the ex would be good revenge and probably a good distraction, and who knows, maybe you guys would get along. However, would you feel like a piece of crap in the long run? In either case, I 100% think you did the right thing by blocking them both and focusing on yourself. Such a tough situation. Wishing you the best, man. So that's the advice OP got, and I already said everything I needed to say. What about you guys? What do you think OP should do, and what do you think is going to happen? Now, we have 2 updates from OP, so let's continue with the first one. So I ended up going over to my now former friend's now ex's place late last evening after dinner. She opened the door and didn't look great. Her eyes were kind of bloodshot. At first I thought she had been crying recently, but she said later she hadn't slept much the past few days. Fair, it's been the same for me. We sat on her couch. I started off by thanking her for reaching out and letting me know what she had discovered in the first place. She said she wished she had approached me sooner because she had felt like things had been off for the past 3 months. According to her, it seemed like whenever the four of us hung out, the banter between my ex and hers had just started escalating a little bit, and there seemed to be an incremental amount of teasing and inside jokes. It never came close to occurring to me because literally the last person I would ever suspect my ex of cheating with was my best friend. She admits for the longest time she also thought that she was just imagining it and figured it was normal for my ex and hers to get along so well because they were close to me. Hell, her and I ourselves also were extremely cordial, though the highlights of our relationship all revolved around her ex. We had organized birthday dinners for him the last 2 years, for example. The other thing that made her suspicious is that he started routinely getting notifications rather late at night, and he would often make innocuous excuses to leave the room when this happened. The latest round of restrictions hit 2 weeks ago, and before that, she noticed he would occasionally again make seemingly innocuous excuses in isolation about needing to run an errand and not be back for like an hour and a half. At this point, my anger was starting to build because it was likely he was dropping by my ex's place for a quickie. She said all this seemed innocent enough by itself, but altogether it made her check his phone when the Snapchat came through while he was asleep. I didn't really want to hear about how their confrontation went, but the lease was in her name and she went to live with a friend for 3 days until he moved out. It seemed like he was strangely prepared for this eventuality. Makes me wonder. The thought that he might be shacking up with my ex right now really made my stomach turn. After she finished the story, we sat in silence for a bit. Part of me wanted to cry, but I was too angry to cry. She started to say something, but then she herself broke down and ugly cried. I was a bit hesitant, but I first took her hand and then hugged her. My anger dissipated into grief too, and I teared up some too, but tried to keep it together for her sake. I held her until she calmed down. She wiped her eyes and looked at me for a bit, and, well, it happened. We kissed. I don't think either of us specifically initiated it. Was almost like the thought struck us both at the same time. I know I badly wanted it, for a bunch of reasons, not the least of which I just wanted to feel like a girl actually wanted me after what happened. But I pulled back and asked her if she was sure. She said she was, and well, one thing led to another. We went to her guest bedroom and slept together. She led the way, and I'm very grateful she had that presence of mind, because I definitely did not want to do it in the same bed my former friend used to. Not too much foreplay, but it felt good enough. I guess my own barriers came down after the post-climax high went away, and it was my turn to cry and her turn to hold me. We fell asleep that way without too much else said. She woke me up this morning, and it turns out she made breakfast, something my own girlfriend never did for me for over a year. I was a bit envious because my former friend told me she did this for him regularly, and I'm not a great cook. We didn't talk much, things were kind of awkward. She finally broke the silence and said that she slept better last night than the entire week beforehand. I admitted that was true for me too. I hadn't slept in an empty bed for a week straight since probably 2 weeks into my relationship with my ex. There was probably a lot more to say, but honestly, I really didn't know where to begin. I just wasn't processing anything. She just moved her chair next to mine and held my hand while I finished eating. Once I finished, she attacked me again, and we ended up back in bed. After this, I didn't really have a choice about the talking because I had to get back home to start work. When I told her this, she teared up and begged me to stay because just not being alone right now made her feel better. I kind of felt the same way at this point. This isolation sucks anyway, and it's even worse when you're going through what I am. I told her she could come back to my place if she wanted. She brightened up and asked me to give her 5 minutes. She ran to her room and came back with a small bag, including 2 changes of clothes. I noticed it and looked at her. She asked me if I was okay with it. I said okay without really thinking. We went back. I had a Zoom meeting for work at my desk in my bedroom while she read in my living room. She isn't working right now. I came out for lunch and she kissed me, and while I was heating up some leftovers for us to eat lunch, she hugged me from behind with her chest pressed against my back. I won't lie, it just felt good. I don't know what else to say about it besides it felt good. It's mid-afternoon now and she's napping in my bed. I'm probably going to join her. I'm done early with work and just spent the last 20 minutes typing this up. When I opened the fridge for lunch, it turned out she had brought a bunch of ingredients with her to make us dinner. I know some of what we're doing probably isn't the healthiest, and I wouldn't do it if it didn't make me feel better in the moment than I have the last week. We do need to talk. That was the whole point of my going over. All we really discussed was how she found out, but I'm leaning towards her letting her stay as long as she wants. In fact, I actively want her to at this point. The health crisis has made this whole situation worse because normally I'd be able to meet other friends and do other things. Under the circumstances, the pros of having her as round-the-clock company outweighs the cons. My place is probably the better spot for both of us because her breakup was more painful than mine. Their relationship was thrice as long, and I myself don't want to be in a place that reminds me of my friend and the trust he betrayed. I'm just going to take it one day at a time. If anyone has any advice on what to do from here, let me know. Okay, so he did end up going, he ended up hooking up with her, and now she's staying with him. Who knows for how long? What do you guys think about this whole thing? How do you guys feel OP is handling this whole situation? In my opinion, I don't think OP is doing a very good job at processing his feelings, and he's just kind of like avoiding them while having this weird kind of relationship with his ex-friend's ex. But also, like I said in the beginning, everybody grieves differently. I definitely wouldn't have done this. Anyways, let's move on with the next update to see what happened after this. So, my former best friend's ex has spent the last 2 nights at my place. That first day, we napped together in the afternoon as we both slept horribly since everything went down. The way she clings to me while we're sleeping is honestly just tender and makes me feel all kinds of things. We woke up and had sex again, lol. She made dinner for us and we spent the rest of the night just holding each other and watching Netflix. I probably could have gone another round, but she ended up crying again, and after she was done, I myself was too emotional to really want to do anything else other than cuddle and eventually fall asleep. I realized yesterday we really did need to talk. I decided to take the day off from work. I let her sleep in, and when she woke up, I finally sat her down. I started things off by saying that I was really glad she was here with me and that we were helping each other feel better. I emphasized that to me this had nothing to do with our exes and was not revenge sex. I wanted to be with her because it made me feel better and I hoped it made her feel better too. She agreed that it definitely did and that we were both dealing with a tremendous amount of hurt and trauma and there wasn't anyone who could empathize better with us than each other, which was why she wanted to stay till the end of quarantine, if I was okay with it. Dealing with what happened to us was going to take a while, and she wanted to be there for me and have me be there for her. I was a bit taken aback, as she was basically talking about moving in with me for months, but I honestly felt the same way. Being alone in isolation the week after finding out was hell for me, and that was before I had even started to process what had happened. I was still thinking, and she told me she was moving out of her apartment regardless. She couldn't afford the rent without a job and without her ex, and she had a couple of potential subletters lined up before we met. She was planning on moving in with a friend, but she'd rather be with me. She could leave most of her things with her friend given my apartment was small, and if either of us needed space, she'd go there temporarily. She had taken my hand at this point and was starting to get a bit tearful. I finally agreed that this was a good arrangement. It felt kind of crazy, but I was just thinking on emotion. She kissed me, hugged me really tightly, and we ended up having sex again. After this, she told me she was going to start going on birth control again so I wouldn't have to use a condom. I really wasn't expecting that. With that settled, we just spent the day together. Cuddled, watched some Netflix, and worked out together. I have some equipment in my apartment, part of why things are so cramped. We went for a walk to buy groceries, she insisted on paying and cooked again. I haven't brought it up with her yet, but instead of splitting the rent, I was thinking of just letting her pay for groceries since she seems to like to cook anyway. Today I took another day off from work. I have a lot saved up since it's not like I had the opportunity to use them much since the lockdown started. And we drove to her apartment where we met the friend who was going to store the bulk of her stuff. I'm now back at my place with the stuff she's keeping with us, and her friend is going to drop her back once she drops off the rest. I don't really know how I feel, except a lot better than I did when I made my first post. I'm just not sure if I should be doing this just because it feels good. I know I don't want to be alone, so for that reason, in my gut, I feel like this is the right call. But are things moving too fast? She's probably shown me more affection outside sex in 3 days than my ex did in the last 3 months of our relationship. Between the cooking and her desire to let me have unprotected sex with her, everything feels kind of domestic, which ironically I never felt with my ex. I figure varying degrees of health measures will last another 3 months or so before vaccinations start to make things significantly better. At that point, perhaps she'll move out and we can take another look at things. Perhaps try dating the traditional way if we want to. At this point, I can't imagine not wanting to as long as the grief I'm feeling now is not a factor then. Hell, maybe we don't even need to do that and she can just stay on with me. I don't know, I am probably thinking too far ahead. I am nervous because of how unusual the situation is, but it still feels like the right call in my gut. I don't know exactly how I feel about her, except that I care about her and want her around because she makes me feel better and I want to do the same for her. Anyone have any advice? Anything I'm missing? And that's all we know about this story up until now. I'm hoping future updates will come so OP tells us what's going on and all that, and of course I'll be making videos about that. Now, in some responses to comments to this last update, OP says that this isn't a relationship. But the way he describes it, it kinda sounds like one, at least to me. And based on that, I wouldn't have done any of what OP did. My personal reasoning is that you shouldn't enter any kind of relationship until you have your own feelings sorted and you love yourself. Because if you don't, then you risk of entering a dependent relationship where you base your happiness on the other person being there with you. And the moment they disappear or do something else that you're not expecting, you crumble back down again. As of this update, OP says he's still going through grief and being with her makes him feel good. So he's not feeling good about being with himself, he's feeling good about being with this other girl. And that's why I believe this might not end well. What do you guys think about all of this? Let me know in the comment section. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to reach our goal of 100,000 subscribers. Also, if you feel like chatting with others from this community, you can always join my Discord server and check out my subreddit. I'll leave the links in the description. And I'll see you guys in the next video.